business models around
Just
this.
different piece.
Both the entities continue to operate independently. And today we have seen this MRF complete 5 years. So in 2016, I joined Sahas, and we started hearing this word MRF, MRF. Like we used to share the same office, and we started hearing MRF, Vilma mentioning it, and like we used to say, what MRF? Madras Rubber Factory. That was the only MRF we knew back then. And in 2017, this MRF was actually established at Jigni, and that is when we realized that, okay, this is what an MRF is. And in our mind at Sahas, this was what MRF meant. But over the years, today, MRF has become a part of all solid waste management plans. Any city, even a village planning a waste management system does think of an MRF, maybe at a block level or within the city limits. But while the word has become popular, we see that different people, different stakeholders have different conceptions or perspectives about what a MRF is, what goes into setting up of an MRF, how should it be operated. We know that MRFs have to be viable, but should they be at the cost of social and environmental impact? So there are a lot of things, and each person here has a different concept of how a MRF should work or could work. And because we are celebrating the And today, because we are celebrating the 5th year completion of this MRF, we thought we will also get the perspective from different people who have been engaged in setting up MRFs, who have been engaged in advising governments on bringing out RFPs, who have been working with waste workers who are a key component of the waste management ecosystem. So we will just have a quick discussion with the esteemed panel members here, and then we will take some questions from the audience. Among audience also, we have people who run MRFs, who have been through different parts of components of the MRF. So having said that, let me start with you, Binisha. So Binisha is on the Technology Development Board of Government of India. She's also heading the International Institute of Waste Management. So Binisha, when ULB brings out the RFP, or when a government decides to allocate funds for setting up an MRF, what in your experience should be the different communication that should go to them so that the RFP that comes out ensures that the MRF operates well?
Good morning, everybody. First of all, congratulations to Sahas for completing 5 years here. But I know Sahas has been working in this field for much longer time. It's really nice that we all could come together to actually see things working, because for the past 27 years now, I've been working in the field of waste management, and I have seen the journey. There was nothing called tech in waste management, and it was always a kind of, because I used to see the waste management systems abroad, and it was always a dream that we should have a lot of technology or technology intervention in waste management. So it's slowly penetrating in India. There are various stages, but I'm quite happy that even though it has been a little, what is happening is when it comes to RFPs, nobody really gives importance to the kind of technology which is there, and also the kind of processing which is happening. Even in the earlier discussions, when informal discussions which we were having, people think that there is a lot of money in waste, and to a large extent we are also responsible for it, because when we started off as NGOs, we always wanted to create this kind of a aura, and that waste is a lot of wealth, don't throw it away, because those days that was how the thinking was. But that kind of stuck on, and today when you go to the government and say that we are going to process waste, they always think that, oh, there is a lot of money and these people are making money from waste, and they don't even understand what it takes to make all this. Um, Even to this extent, I'm not even talking about a very sophisticated kind of place. So the RFPs are also reflecting that same idea, where people think that there's so much money, so you make the RFPs in such a way that we get back that, which is a very wrong concept. And that's something which I have been working now. Every forum that I go to, I keep telling, please, we have to do this unlearning of waste to wealth. Because here you need to put in money to make it happen. See, like just like any other industry, if you have to create a product, you need to have resources. You need to spend energy. You need to have additional resources. You need to have resources like the labor, the manpower. So everything goes into it for making a product. Similarly here also, and here you need an additional little more cost we need to think of, because people are entering into this kind of a field which has again health and safety issues, which means you need to have much more inputs to make this happen. So even the RFPs should reflect that. The second thing which is missing in all the RFPs is the kind of accountability, because we have no idea of what numbers we are talking about. Because the right from the households, there is no number which is clear. So that, even if it is industry, see, I'm not talking about just the domestic sector, but I'm sure you have also worked with commercial establishments and even industries or even the hotel industry and those kind of areas. Nobody thinks about what is the quantity that is generated. In fact, in many forums, I have also asked people, can you at least tell me what is the quantity of waste that is generated in each of your household? Not a single person knows. They just give some value. And there are others who think that they are very learned. They say that there is some kind of a benchmark. Okay, this 400 grams per household or 400 grams per person per capita. This kind of a figure they give. But if you ask, are you weighing at your house? No. This is true in India because we have very scant respect for numbers. Now that has to also get reflected in the RFPs, because once that comes, we know exactly how much is the money which is spent, for what, and where is it going. For that reprocessing or recycling, how much will that be? Then they will appreciate that what is the amount which is spent in doing all this work. Because today that is also not there. So these two are the most important aspects which has to come into the RFP, which we are now trying to work. And another thing is, like, because there is no such numbers, when it comes to municipalities, here it is they don't give you the money, but there it is like extra money is being given. And that also has to come to some kind of a, it's not that the contractors should just get the money. I'm not belittling their work, because that's again a fantastic thing that they're doing. That's the reason, at least to this extent, we are having waste management. But we need to have some realistic costing which needs to be done. Thank you. I hope I've answered.
Need for complete accountability and traceability of waste from source to the end destination, and also that not expecting a payback from the MRF operator unless you're clear about the PNL and the really good. So very important. Thank you, and I hope the decision makers listen to the points that you are making, and I'm sure they will. They will. It will happen slowly, but they will. Yeah. So I'll next come to Alpita, because you are from UNDP. You have been working with them for 3.5 years, and UNDP has been setting up MRFs right from 2019, and you have had your own journey of different models of setting up MRFs. So can you take us through your learnings and experiences, and how has that model maybe changed or improved or remained as it is? Yeah. So we'd like to learn from your experiences.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And many congratulations to SARS team for completing 5 years of this MRF that we have had. Coming to your question, so UNDP, I mean, we started developing these MRFs as a PPP model, that's public-private partnerships, wherein we have the support from the urban local bodies. We also have our donor partners who are onboarded, as in they are supporting in setting up the machineries and other supports for running the MRF. We as UNDP are the technical partners and also the facilitators and monitoring partners for the entire implementation of the project. And we have the service providers or the implementing partners who are on field, who are basically collecting the material and sorting it and then further sending it for recycling. So all the processes that are included in the functioning of the MRF. So here, while I mean it has been about 3.5 to 4 years of implementing the MRF model across cities in India. So in this, based on the local expertise or the local already available options that were there for the MRF, so we have done the baselines and we have studied of all the available or the present scenarios for all the MRFs, and based on that we have implemented various various things that we have at the MRFs. So one of the things, like for example, if I may give, is for the Mumbai MRF. Like Mumbai has the space constraints are very high and the incoming waste volume is huge. So for that we have, with the space constraints that we have, accordingly we have set up the entire MRF. Like where would be the sorting area and how the sorting of the materials would take place. Again, the multiple challenges that we have faced while implementing these MRFs is one of them is like getting the proper sorted material, because most of our MRFs are working on post-consumer waste or directly getting the waste from the households. So that waste needs to be properly segregated for the MRFs to function at an optimal capacity. So that's one of the things that we worked at, is the IEC activities or making that happen wherein the segregation takes place and we get the proper dry waste, so at least 80 to 90% of dry waste reaching the MRF. Then we also have, during the conception of the MRF, we have also involved the various stakeholders, which is the citizens and the residents and the ALMs also of the city, and of course also the UIBs on the various, what are their inhibitions or what are their expectations from the project. So understanding their expectations, we've tried to bring about a holistic approach towards constructing these MRFs, and also their participatory approach, like their ownership also towards the entire implementation of the material recovery facility. So yeah, these have been the various aspects. Of course, there's the technical aspects or the machineries that we have built into these MRFs, and there's the social aspects as well, wherein the multiple informal and the formal waste workers that were there, and also the aggregators and the recyclers and the recycler linkages that we've done. So these also form the integral component while setting up these material recovery facilities. Thank you.
One of the key things that you said is that, making available good sorted dry waste at MRFs. I think that is one of the main things that will make a MRF viable, apart from, other things like traceability and complete accountability. So yeah, and we have ourselves seen UNDP MRF across different cities, many of them operating in different models. But one of the key things is having good segregated dry waste, and it's great that you're focusing on the IEC part and working with the community. And Coming to you, Akshay, because waste workers are a key component of the entire waste management system. And you have seen this facility, you have seen many other MRFs. Where do you place waste workers in this context? Do you see them getting integrated into systems like this? Maybe running systems like this as entrepreneurs? And basically your views on the whole thing.
So, again, like the other participants did, first of all, congratulations for completing the 5 years. It's a long, long journey, as Dinisha said. So, it's a step on that journey, but a big one. Coming to the question itself, it's been something I've been grappling with for the last year or so, that I've been working in the space per se. Because waste workers, while an integral part of the equation, are pretty much ignored everywhere. In all the discussion forums I've been in, it's about generators needing to get paid for the waste, about waste to energy plants, so on and so forth, needing to get subsidized by the government, but traditionally waste workers get left out of the process. Again, so it's a little bit tricky, because this is one of the gateway jobs. Waste picking is one of the gateway jobs that rural Indians hit when they come to a city. There is no skill set requirement. Over time, they transition, they learn something, they move into a different job. So, however, some of them continue to do that across their life, but educate their children who then move into different jobs. But it is a gateway job, and that's important to remember. So doing away with it, unlike doing away with manual scavenging, affects how the current transition into our cities works. That's one part. The other is, it's been tricky. So I think Bangalore's the only city that seems to have, at least with the DWCs, partly integrated the waste pickers into the process. Will they be able to get up to baling, processing, etc.? It's unlikely. But with the DWCCs, at least part of the collection and sorting, waste pickers themselves, waste workers themselves are being integrated in, and therefore that seems to work. In most of the MRFs that I've seen, while they are employing, at the end of the day, people who end up working are coming from a section of society that we definitely want to help. Poverty, SDG, is basically being satisfied when they're getting paid minimum wage or more. But typically, most of them end up not employing waste workers. I know you have a social inclusion program that actually does go that side, so you're already working towards it, but not a lot of people are. So that's been a challenge.
Also, if I may ask a supplementary question, what would it take for waste workers to start building their skills, and what should NGOs like us, like Sahas, do to work with waste workers, and is that a possibility, even, and at what scale, at what depth we should be working with waste workers to make it happen?
Sure. So per se, I think the first thing might actually be just in terms of the level of flexibility. To some extent, it's like looking at gender. When you want to get women back to work, but they are, let's say, young mothers, so on and so forth, they need to have a certain amount of time at home. It's very similar for waste workers. They're used to working flexible hours, and therefore, at the end of the day, if you were doing, let's say, as an example, 4-hour shifts than 8-hour shifts, it would be a lot easier to potentially get them to come in. So in DWCCs, they work between 4 to 6 hours. I'm using that as my rule of thumb benchmark, because they end up with a lot of waste pickers working with them. And sorting is something that they end up doing there also. So it's something that would immediately fit bang into what they do. That's one of the real differentiators to my mind, flexibility. In terms of payment, you're already paying what is over and above what they get in most DWCCs. So I don't think them getting the labor should actually be a challenge.
Thanks, Akshay. Very important inputs which we will keep in mind is the flexibility that waste workers possibly need because of other constraints that they face. And they may not be able to work in a factory kind of environment. So that flexibility and gender, how we can promote more women. I think here we have a lot of women. You have more women working here than men? Equal? Okay, yeah, because you have a night shift. So, yeah. And I would also like to get the perspective from Arun or maybe Murthy on, we are seeing different ULPs set up MRFs in different models. And of course your MRF gets I think more than 50% of its waste from the bulk waste generators who are your service fee customers. And you have also tied up with ULP, smaller TMCs who are sending you their waste. But if you had to take the case of say a Rupesh, I don't know if Rupesh is here, who's collecting waste from some wards in Bangalore and he has set up his own MRF on his own land versus we are working with Abdul in Ghaziabad who has got the land and shed from the municipality and he is only operating. So how does the PNL look like? How do the operations differ and how is the viability, both social, environmental and of course the economic?
Yeah, great question. I think probably the $1 million question because it's very important to get the economic side, the P&L right for the MRF, and it all starts from there. Really, it all starts from an Excel sheet. And these three cases are very, very good comparisons to each other. So let me just reiterate what Archana has just mentioned. So this MRF was built for a specific supply chain, a combination of bulk waste generators and municipal waste. That's what we have been operating for 5 years. Archana mentioned slightly down south from here, there is one of the BBMP contractors who's built a similar MRF, we've helped him set it up as well, for 100% of his own supply chain, which is the ward level collections. Right, so that is a 100% private model. While the source of waste is government, that's 100% private model, similar to us. And then Archana mentioned another entity we've been involved in. This is in Delhi, who has a PPP model, which UNDP also is adopting. So in the PPP model, the facility, which is the entire shed, which is majority of the cost, I would say, is provided by the government, the local body, and the machinery can come in through different kind of funding, and the operations happens by the entrepreneur. Now, unfortunately, the difference between the other two models is that this entrepreneur has a necessity to pay back to the government. Unfortunately, it's the reverse of a service fee model. Right? So we have noticed that compliances are not being met. They're not able to meet the compliances because they're not able to meet the costs of compliances. And that is the true example of how the service fee plays such an important role in making sure that there is a 100% comprehensive impact through the MRF. Let me take another example as well, where this kind of a facility has been used as a case study by the government. The government has set up multiple such MRFs across, and we have some partners over there as well who have now started, adapting the model. Initially it was a service fee model, now it has come to a zero model. Let's try and see how that works. We still have to test it out. But the government is now providing some of the land, the facility, the capex. The corporate can come in and provide some of the support as well. So strictly speaking, we know it works on a service fee model. There is no doubt about it. But when it comes to municipal waste, where the quality of waste is not as good, it does not fetch enough value. The waste does not fetch enough value. So there needs to be additional revenue streams. That's why we have to be a bit more innovative, and we have our clients here through repurpose who actually help some of the other projects. We're all kind of connected in one way or the other, and they provide a different kind of a service fee through the plastic credit model. So, in summary, I would say that we have quite a few MRF models out there as we speak today. Some of them have been successful, some of them have been successful but not fully compliant. So we would classify them as not fully successful, right? They still have a long way to go. The only key differentiator is, of course, the cost optimization is of course a parameter, but how do you generate more revenue streams, if not user fee, if not service fee? How can you combine quite a few service fee models to facilitate this revenue stream? So it all boils down to that.
Yeah, thanks, Arun. I'm sure the other panelists will have something to add on to what you said. But before we go there, I thought if Murthy could just give us a few points, or maybe also little bit between the rural and urban MRFs, because you have been involved in setting up the Udupi MRF, like consulting with the government to set it up. Maybe your thoughts on that and add on to anything that you want to. Yeah.
Before that, just to add on Arun's point, I have a point. Again, it matters how much of recovery is happening in these MRFs. Because I have observed in other MRFs, the recovery is not so great. Because here, we go in there to recover as much as possible. There also the additional cost is involved. So that also adds to the viability. Yeah.
When you say recovery, you are saying recovery is for things into recycling, not really cement plants or co-processing. You are looking
In
at
both ways, in fact, sending to co-processing also is an additional cost, but sending to landfill is very less cost. But the other MRFs I have seen, even Ghaziabad, has the policy of government takes back the waste, so that is one key thing. Coming to this rural and urban, so I think major difference between rural and urban is the waste characterization. Because urban has this lifestyle where people use has adopted the already urban culture, and if you see the waste value is bit more in urban, but in rural it is less. But in terms of other side, rural people are quite accepting to do the source segregation, but urban people are quite reluctant to do it. These are the two key highlights.
yeah. Thanks. So I request if any panelist wants to add on to anything after hearing everybody. One last word from you, and then we'll throw it open to other members of the audience. We have 5 minutes, so we can.
Yeah, I would like to add another thing about the technology and also the sharing of information between the people who are working in this sector, because that's something which I have seen is not really good. Because I mean, it's really India is so vast. We have about 2.5 lakh panchayats, and then we have about 3,500 to 4,000 ULBs, and everywhere there is a demand. And we have just a handful of people who are working in the sector, but somehow each one thinks that they they kind of guarded on everything that they are working, and there's so much of competition, which is something which I've not been able to understand at all. And this we need to break, because I have seen, because I always compare this with other industrial sectors. Even if you take IT, where there's so much fierce competition, but they are all together, and if there is anything, see, competition in terms of product, final selling, that's a different thing. But when it comes to being together, when you have to ask for your rights, when you have to talk to government, when you have to, I mean, I don't use the word lobby, but when you have to put forth your problems, you need to be together. And even today, other than MRAI, which again I wouldn't consider more in terms of waste management here, because they are Recycling Industry Association. So that's again another industrial sector. But in the waste management, we do have one organization, but of late they also want to revive and come back. But other than that, we don't see a lot of cohesion, and that has to be done. So whoever's working here in the waste management, I think this consciously we need to develop, because I see there are many kind of tech interventions. Bangalore is the area for digitization, for IT, for AI, for machine learning. But when it comes to implementation, how many of them are cooperating? There's hardly anything. You do have Google and all that, but that's not enough. But there are people who have been doing it, because I know of 3 or 4 industries who have reached a very high level of these kind of sorting, but then they have to come forward and then help you, or like work together. That is not happening. Wherever you go, you see that the MRFs are working almost similar to what 10 years back. I mean, that's not what the expectation is. Of course, money is a part. That is the reason why you are not able to come forward with all that. But they also have to work together with you. And for this, every MRF and every different organizations should work together, come together, have discussions like this. There are a few seminars where they come, and I have seen, because I am there in many such forums. There's always a competition. You can feel it, and that's very bad, because that's not healthy competition. And there's so much to do, and why this competition, this sector, is something which I have not been able to understand at all. So I think that is, each one of you have to also think and come out of that.
I think there's more than enough
We-
waste, and there is more than
Yes.
enough opportunity
How
for
much
everybody to
even 10
exist
years
together.
you all do, even if they give you, if government pumps in money to all of you, you still have so much to do, because there's such a vast country and everywhere there is a need. And even if all of us work even 24 hours, even if we multiply ourselves to, so many, that's the kind of work that is available. And I don't understand why this competition is there. And this guarded thing, no, I won't tell this to the other organization. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know why this has come up, but
It's changing, and we are seeing.
it is
we are also
changing, but
feeling the
I'm
need
not
to
happy with the
collaborate.
change, because, see, I can talk because I'm an outsider. I can see it from a different view. And this is one thing which I wanted to tell everybody. That's the reason I'm using this kind of an opportunity. But I think that definitely you yourself have to come out and try and do
That
that.
we-
Others also have to help. But I thought this, I don't know if this is the right forum, but I think
I
this
think
has
it
to
is
come.
because there's also a need coming within the sector for a common platform
Yes.
and a common voice, especially
Yes.
when you said breaking the myth of wealth out of waste.
Definitely.
We need a common voice. So
Because
collaboration
only
can-
such, when there is that kind of an organization, association, that's the only way you can talk about it.
Alpita, anything that you would like to add?
Yes, so thank you again for this platform. I would like to again emphasize on the decentralized waste management facilities. So although there has been a push towards the centralized facilities for their cost effectiveness and processing of a majority of types of waste, which includes the biomedical waste and the hazardous waste, all within the centralized common facility. However, I would like to emphasize here for the decentralized facilities is because there's a lot of citizen participation that we get because of this decentralized facilities again, and a lot of employability also. And with taking this opportunity of the decentralized facilities, we can have like the skilling of the waste workers, and also getting as many aggregators also to come into the mainstream or the formalized sector of working in the waste management space. So yeah, this
I
is
think very important point, because we had missed the decentralized, focus on decentralized. It improves the transparency, it improves the accountability also, and engagement of the community. You can see what is happening if it's happening near you. Thanks, Alpita, for bringing that out. And Akshay, anything that
Yeah, so just a couple of things. One is on that point on having a sector body. Completely agree with that. And actually, I don't think competition needs to go away. The automobile sector competes tooth and nail with each other. But when it comes to asking the government to lower the excise duties, they're all standing on one CM platform, right? So it's just about ensuring that common interests are at least being represented. Right now, we don't even know what the common interests are. Everyone's looking out for their own interests, and they're just too small to be able to get power to negotiate with state governments, forget central government. So that definitely a big plus one on that. And just going back to what Arun brought up in terms of the model, the problem is that when the government thinks PPP, and in my capital market days I looked at roads, ports, airports, etc. The government is always thinking about what can I get out of this, right? And however, some of those models have been done extremely well. So the incentives have been tied in to service delivery. The reason that we're seeing a failure in places like Ghaziabad is because currently the incentives are not tied to service delivery. So as an example, if we are talking about the airport road where toll is charged, there is a certain amount of days that it is allowed to be under maintenance and only small stretches. If there is a larger piece, then the government takes time out of the years that they allowed for the toll to be collected. So there is actually a disincentive. Right now, the incentives in the contracts, and there I guess we still need more work done on the government, and I'm sure there's work being done on that side of the table. But that's probably what needs to be done. So we need to push harder. I'm not sure we will go away from the PPP model because the government has tasted blood in infrastructure and now we're done with it. So it won't go away, but let's figure out what requires to be fixed to ensure that it's not the fly-by-night operators or not the ones who are willing to, let's say skirt compliance, for lack of a better word, who are winning these bids, because the lowest cost bid will always win, but if we've got the conditions tied in, then it'll work out.
Thanks. Very important that, we are also talking about waste as a service, just like you have electricity, water. Waste as a service is very important, and then you need to have service delivery incentivized, and breakdowns need to be penalized. So, very important. Yes, Arun.
Yeah, just on that note, we've seen, especially in rural India, that if services can be provided, the citizens are willing to pay service fee. And across India, we have seen service fee being possible. So that's a very valid point that PPP models can work, and if it is linked to services rendered, it's going to work even better for sure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks. So, anybody in the audience? Yeah.
So we are all here because I think waste is top our list in what we do. Some as part of work, some as part of profession or passion. Waste is inevitable, I think, in our cities and towns. And what you all are doing is fantastic. I can't imagine how much more waste there would be if there is no collection. One huge worrying point is for large majorities of our population. They do not believe waste is their responsibility. The generator believes it's the government or whichever not-for-profit or NGO, whoever is dealing with the waste, it's their headache. So volunteer groups like us, I represent Beautiful Bengaluru, I'm Odette, now called Beautiful Bharat. We work at changing that mindset of my waste, my responsibility, which luckily enough is our BBMP tagline. But how can we, so you want waste, it has to be good segregated waste. How can we through our campaigns get people to give you waste that's perfectly segregated? A worrying echo I'm hearing from different segments today is that by having all these recycling facilities, you are actually encouraging people to consume and generate more, right? So I stand there at the boundary of the recyclers and the people on the other side who are generating the waste. My one statement on this is, it is so important at every stage to keep re-emphasizing that we must reduce waste. The waste we have in the first place, we must segregate it in the first place. I would say even before reducing waste, is whatever waste you generate, it has to be perfectly segregated. That's the first step even before reducing. Arun is nodding because if you get mixed waste, it is no use, right? So the first step is the segregation, where we have a lot of campaigns around. The second step is for everyone to reduce their waste. But I request each and every one of you, in all your campaign messaging, in all your advertising of what you do, which is brilliant, please have this parallel message that reducing waste at source is the first option. Because there are a lot of people who then see it as, these people, for them to get more waste is good, and I think it takes away from the good work that it's doing. Secondly, all of these are tied up with livelihoods, or like we saw in the video, of people who have underprivileged backgrounds. If we can mesh an environment objective with the socio-economic objective, I think that's fantastic. But we have to the public at large, I would like all of us to reinforce these common messages that waste is everyone's responsibility at the individual generator level, even as a home. It's not okay for me to put it out and say my apartment will take care. So pushing more of that back on the generator, be it individual or corporate or institution. And the second is the parallel message is that we must all reduce our waste, cut out single use of anything just because it's a paper cup, we don't tons of paper cup and paper straws to be true, right? So thank you.
We'd like to hear from Mr. Chandan. He's from Mangala Waste Resource Management.
I'm very happy to be here. I take this opportunity to congratulate Sahas Zero Waste on the completion of 5 years. You know, I can't imagine the first day what would the directors of the company would have felt here to run the show. The courage that they have taken is a kind of inspiration to us. And I would say this MRF, which has completed 5 years, is a kind of mother institution for us. This is a kind of womb for us to run our rural MRF in Nite. Operation side, as well as IEC side, segregation of waste, everything. SARS Zero Waste in their operations have helped us a lot in achieving efficiency in the operations. Day to day, it has improved a lot. The collection efficiency has improved a lot because of SARS NGOs interventions in the rural areas. And segregation of waste. Nowadays, the quality of waste has improved a lot. Rejections are very less. It is all due to IEC undertaken by SARS NGO at the rural area. And thanks to SARS Corporation, we have got Mangaluru, Edapadu, which is operational from 1 month, and also Ramnagara unit. And we would like to run more such units. See, we are also a volunteer. We started as a volunteer organization. Like this is a private company, but we worked as volunteers of Ramakrishna Math in Mangaluru city for nearly 8 years to clean the city. We know the behavior of people in the city area as well as rural area, and we wanted to bring in such interventions where the economic cycle would set in waste industry, in especially this coastal area. And I would like to, and regarding what Benisha ma'am said, what I feel is that organizations are not the competitors in this area. Waste is the competition for us. We have to see the quantum of waste that is getting generated, the character, the kind of diverse waste behavior with different stature of people, different economic status of people. Taming the waste itself is a competition for us, and thousands of such organizations is needed for the country. And we should all stand in one platform to tame the area. It will be respected. That's what I feel. Like how we are, taking guidance from SAHS, and SAHS is coming up with a lot of innovations. Very inspiring to see Google AI as well as NIR spectroscopy research that is going on here. Such interventions are really required for the industry. If we are able to increase the efficiency, it will really help us in our operational costs coming down. It's very important. The numbers are very important in the industry also. And regarding what Mr. Akshay said, we are employing nearly 65% of women in our total organization in the ground level, and we are paying the minimum of 2 times what the panchayat pays, and within 3 months it goes to 3 times of what panchayat pays, and there is high demand for employment. So what I feel is that as an organization, being in this sector, we should have 50% of volunteerism into it, and 50% business to run the organization in the proper way. Volunteerism in the sense, we should sense the ground realities, how to bring in, maybe SAHS is doing it that way, like whatever NGO is doing as well as whatever operations side Zero Waste is achieving. And I really thank for inviting to this program. Maybe with the cooperation of SAHS, we would also see 5 years in our operations in our MRF, wherever we would run MRF. Thank you.
Anyone has any questions for the panelists?
If I may just add one point about Mangala's progress, this steep progress that we've seen. A true example of what service fee can actually do. So service fee, user fee collections from the villages has helped them establish a good, service fee model, business model, such that they're approaching this concept of living wages. They're not talking about minimum wages anymore, they're talking about living wages. So here's a true case study of how the government can help entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs with decentralized solution to help livelihoods in the place. And they're very proud to say that, after 1.5 years of operation, there hasn't been any attrition at all, probably no attrition. So great case study in terms of the social impact thanks to a good business model as well.
What is that living wage? What is the living wage?
So I said it's more or less close to living wages, but the indicator here is 3 times of the Gram Panchayat set.
At the entry level, we are paying 15,000. After 3 months, we are paying 21,000. And once he's experienced, 23,000 it goes like 23, 25 to the managers, 27.
Panchayats are typically paying 5,000 to 6,000. Yes.
6,000, 8,000 like that.
For collection.
So, lot of demand, to come into our every panchayat, whenever our vehicle goes to collection, they'll ask for vacancies.
Hi everyone, I'm Ritesh, working as senior manager for EPR and SaaS. So I've been more of a distant observer to MRF, and today's conversation is very helpful to me. One thought came to my mind was we talked about decentralized model, the importance of community engagement and building a more proper management of waste through that. And then also we touched upon technology and the use of having very strong mechanisms and proper shed. Just between the two, which is the good model? Like, do we need to have a more like a microtech enabled system for decentralized models, or should we have more robust supply chains for having centralized big MRFs to manage waste? Just thinking between the two. Anyone open to the panel? Anyone can touch upon the two?
Yes, so here again, see, the thing is, all the waste that is being generated, that needs to be sorted, right? So how much ever we do the IC activities wherein we are emphasizing that once the dry waste is properly, it's properly segregated, then it can be sent for better recycling. And the number of times the material is recycled can be increased and improved as well. So here the emphasis has been, I would like to emphasize on the decentralized model, because it is basically that you have a facility right around your backyard wherein you can see the operations for yourself. The citizens can see the operations for themselves and also be further motivated to segregate the waste at source. So yes, there are in fact also opportunities wherein there is a better and robust model for the centralized schemes that are happening. But somewhere this part may be missing, which is also crucial for the EPR activities to take place. So that is my submission to the question that you asked. But of course that's me.
And also basically not always for the other. So as an example, one of the startups that we're funding under the program that I lead, it's called Asha. They're currently making designers out of MLPs. This needs to be a decentralized model, so it will employ a ton of waste pickers because they will collect, get it to a small place, and that is where you will actually end up making it. So there's high level of technology involved, 3D printing, as well as you've got a decentralized model. So it's not one or the other. The best is where we can weave both in. But that said, it will depend on what is the density of the waste that you are generating. As an example, in rural India, you might actually need some level of centralization even to get enough waste to be able to do that. So all of that, there are a variety of components that will go into it before taking a decision, but the best would be to actually get both pieces together, technology and decentralization.
For waste management, especially when it comes to domestic sector and commercial sector, it's a hub and spoke kind of an activity. So MRFs are always decentralized. The reason is because you are anyway not doing the final processing here. It's only a material recovery facility. It's not a material recycling facility. And for recycling, you need some kind of a minimum quantity. Only then it will be viable. So even here again, it all depends on what is that minimum number of households or the minimum area for which the logistics works out in terms of feasibility, economic feasibility. So that way, this is, MRFs are always decentralized, if you're asking about specifically about that kind of thing. But if your question is on the waste, solid waste management, should it be decentralized or should it be centralized? There is a question, because there are some big cities who think that you don't need to have this kind of MRFs. Everything should go to one waste to energy plant, and all the waste, mixed waste should go. But today that question does not come in India, because our 2016 rules very clearly mentions that so segregated waste and as much as possible recovery. So our legal system very clearly mentions for these kind of MRFs, because only then you can do the recycling and only then you can do the recovery. And that does not mean that waste to energy plants are not to be there. You require that also, because there are some RDFs and there are places where you don't have co-processing centers nearby. So then the answer is only waste to energy plant. That too, waste to energy plant, I'm talking in terms of incineration kind of facility. Whereas waste to energy for the wet waste, that is the biomethanation, biogas and all that. For that again, you need to have these kind of centralized facilities. So it's all about what is the economic feasibility for, and what's the minimum quantity that is required. But MRFs definitely is only, because it works out only. This in fact is, when you talk in terms of logistics management and all that, these are considered like a transfer station. But a transfer station with recovery in it. So in all ways, whether it is energy, in terms of resources that are required, and also in terms of the maximum recovery that is possible, you need to have these kind of hub and spoke model.
Thank you, Amit.
I think we are running out of time, and we will wrap up with this. And thanks everybody for bringing out your different perspectives, and glad that we are all aligned on the basic things that MRF needs to make it run viably. And I'm sure the audience here is today richer by the thoughts all of you have expressed. Thanks. And Kritika, do we have one last word from Vilma summing up the whole thing? Yeah, we have time for that, Vilma. Just because this must have been your dream to see the MRF, and what is your thought today?
Yeah, thanks. And this was such a good discussion. I think very holistic, very realistic, and each of us who are here today come with our a commitment towards that common objective of environmental and social impact. And I think each one of us that are here today are also influencers. So I hope now that we can, understanding what it takes to set up an MRF, what it takes to run an MRF, what kind of impact that we can have. This is something now that I hope we will be able to take back to the various communities or to the various forums where we are active. Yeah, because this message needs to go out, and thanks Benisha so much for bringing it out, that we as organizations really have that responsibility. We have that responsibility to put out there that information collectively, because only when we do that will we be taken seriously. And therefore I think from our side we have the commitment, and I know Arun and Murthy are sitting here in Shobha, where everything that we do here, including the data, including our operational costs, including our gross margin, is out there, and we will have it out there in the public domain so that people can take it and understand. So I think that's our commitment, not just beginning today, but it's been there all through that we would like to share whatever our learnings of the last 20 years, 21 years between the NGO and between the Sahas, between the business model. So I'll take this opportunity very quickly before I think there is our team, our field team is all out there waiting because they also have to be recognized, acknowledged. They are the backbone of the MRF and we will have that little session. And of course, there's going to be celebrations after lunch for them as well. But right now, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Vinisha, Alpita, and Akshay for coming here on a Saturday, and of course Archana as well, internal person I would say, but for putting this panel together. We have recorded it, so I think it will go up on our YouTube channel. I know that there are many people out there waiting to see and hear all that has been discussed here. So thanks very much for coming. And of course to our audience, thanks for being here. And I hope that, as I said before, this message will go all out. We also have a representation from the Times of India. And Niranjan, I was seeing, has taken a lot of notes. So I hope that this will also go out into the media, because that would be the quickest way in which we can reach so many people to be reached. Thanks especially to Odette also and Ograja. We know him as somebody who is always out there picking up litter, and I think, you know, the fact that he now knows where the litter is coming will give him that special incentive to continue to doing what he does. Odette, thanks to you. Thanks to Nayana, a young person who's also there active on YouTube. Praveen, who's been there with us, supporting us many years ago in Whitefield. Really nice to have the community participation as well. Thanks to the Saha Zero Waste team for putting all of this together. Kritika and Janita, and of course Vivek, whom we pulled out yesterday to do this photography session. Bhagashri and Pranav and Satvik, who's come all the way from Rishikesh, right? From Haridwar. They're active there. So those of you who would like to have a quick word with him through our Aviral project and with the NGO, they've been working in Haridwar, Rishikesh. I'd really like an applause for our field team before we close, because we really appreciate them working day in and day out. Naveen, who's our manager. Naveen, we would like to take a little applause to you as well. He's our manager and been here now for quite a while, managing the whole show. And of course, Ganesh here also. All of them very tech, engineering backgrounds, working in the space very, very much with dedication. Murthy, Arun, I don't have to say thank you to you. Benki, yes, Benki, is literally on fire day on day. Yeah? He goes around, makes sure that the waste is segregated that comes to us here. So he's been with us for quite a few years, very active and very much a support to the team here. Thanks everybody, and we will just, before we close, go to that round of recognition for the field staff. We do it right here, no? What we will make available, Murthy, is the PNL, which we put out on our website also, so that will be made available. I think in the interest of time, we wanted to show you the numbers, and if anyone wants to know the numbers, you can share that PPT with them as well. Yeah? Okay? So over to you, Murthy, for the rewards and recognition. Thanks, everybody. Archana, thank you as well. Yeah?
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಟೀ ಕಾಫಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ? सो ये ना डरता है निमಗೆಲ್ಲ आप सभी को कुछ समझ में आया? थोड़ा इंग्लिश में बात कर रहे थे तो शायद मुश्किल हुआ होगा, बट ये हमारा 5 साल का पूरा जर्नी के बारे में बात किया हमने. 5 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದರು, ನಮ್ಮ MRF, ಇಡೀ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ MRF ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು. सभी को मतलब पूरे देश में जो भी हो रहा है उसके बारे में बोला, और हमारे MRF में क्या हो रहा है उसके बारे में बोला, और जो होने वाला है उसके बारे में भी बात किया, जैसे काम करना है. तो सभी के बीच में आप लोग शामिल हैं और आज आपका दिन है. 5 साल गुजर चुका है, तो आज एक छोटा सा सेलिब्रेशन होगा अभी. तो शुरुआत करते हैं थोड़े अवार्ड्स के साथ. तो ಇವಾಗ ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋದು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಈ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ದಿನದಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಇದ್ದಾರೋ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಥರ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಸೆಲೆಬ್ರೇಷನ್, ಒಂದು ರಿವಾರ್ಡ್ ಥರ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಮೆಡಲ್ ತೊಗೊಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
That was a really interesting panel discussion. We all came away with so much of food for thought. As Bilma and Arun mentioned, our field staff here is the backbone of our organization, and we are very happy to call out and recognize them here today. I would request some of our guests to come on stage to hand over the award certificate to them. May I invite? Yeah. May I invite Mr. Praveer to come on stage. मैं जैसे नाम अनाउंस करती हूँ, आप लोग प्लीज अवार्ड लेने के लिए स्टेज पे आइए. मिस्टर जयबाला,
So we have Jaybal here, and for some of you who may not know his background, he's been more than 5 years with us because he's been with us even before the previous MRF, which was the mini version of the MRF. He's been with us since we ever started the aggregation model, and yeah, probably almost 10 years with us now. This is Jaybal, who is the man behind the billing machine. इंद्र प्रधान. सो इंद्र प्रधान हमारे पहले एम्प्लॉय थे. इधर जैसे ही हमने एक रूम बनाया हमारे ग्राउंड के पीछे, इंद्र प्रधान हमारे पहले दिन से इधर काम कर रहे हैं. A very shy man. A lot of you people would have seen him on a lot of videos. So he's transformed in many different ways rather than just sorting and baling. And he comes all the way from up north, from the Himalayas and that region of Uttarakhand.
Nagveni.
So some of the visitors to the MRF have nicknamed her as the robot. So she normally holds the big conveyor line, and she's the mainstay for us and a champion sorter.
Tulsamma.
So Tulsama has been with us for more than 5 years. She's been through thick and thin over here, and she's valued her time over here, and we value her support to us as well. She's the first one to arrive at the MRF every day, the most punctual person you can think.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. May I request Odette to come on stage, please? Muniratnamma.
So Munratnamma was very instrumental in bringing her community together and bringing more people to Saha Zero Waste MRF through her community influence.
Sheila Devi. Sheila Devi is absent.
So I will just mention a couple of words about Shala Devi. She's traveling, so she's not with us today. But she comes from the regions of Bihar, and she's again brought quite a few of her family members from Bihar who've also been some of our mainstay here at the MRF. And she went through some difficult times with an injury to her leg, but thanks to the ESI contributions, she was able to recover quite well. And it wasn't injury to the leg, it was to the head, but now she's very fine and she's healthy. So she's again one of our mainstays, been here for more than 5 years with us.
Ratnamma. Ratnamma, please come on stage.
She can't believe she's been called on stage because she's normally the quiet one. She's always at her work, very focused and approached.
Chandribai.
So you saw a bold Chandribai in the video. She was not so bold when she came here, but she's now clocked more than 4 years, and she has a very proud look when she goes back home saying that I work in a very professional organization. And these people have told me that they're very proud in saying that they actually work in waste as well. So true ambassador of waste management amongst the communities.
May I request Log Raja to please come on stage to give the next set of awards? Then Dharmendra, please come on stage. He is also on leave. Arun, do you want to say something about Dharmendra and Rajesh?
Yes, Dharmendra again came from reference from really up north from the Himalayas, and he's someone who's always said yes to everything. He's someone who does not say no to anything. He's probably worked across all the functions here, and after some time he said, I'm so connected that I want to come and stay here. So he actually stays in the staff quarters just outside the MRF facility as well. Another very hard worker and a very silent person.
Sanjeev Kumar Das, please.
So Sanjeev is a very outspoken person. When he came to join us, he started off with the night shift. And we would like to share something about his experience as well. He came back to us and said, night shift is not as easy as I thought it was. Can you move me on to the day shift? So we did that, and then he's been flourishing ever since. So just to put it out there that there have been some instrumental people, we're going to see a few more, who love doing the night shift. They say the chillness of Bangalore and the lake next door really motivates them to come the night shift. So I can't tell you how difficult it is, but a huge round of applause for all the night shift staff here. We will see some more coming up as well.
Sudhir.
Sudhir, very committed, very cooperative person. He's the red flag raiser for the night shift as well. He's wanted as a night shift guy as well. And he's also clocked 4 years now at the MRF.
May I invite Dr. Rajendra Hegde, please come on stage. Mukesh Narzari, please.
Mukesh is not here. He's one of the stylish field staff we've got. He dons different kinds of hairstyles every single time. And again, happy to share that we have a lot of Nazaris over here. He brings a lot of his brothers from his hometown, and they all enjoy a great time together. And again, someone from the night shift. So I request Chavla to come on stage to take the award on behalf of his brother. Chavla Nazari. Chavla just joined us recently, maybe a year and a half back, but he's a master housekeeper of the MRF.
Ajay Kumar next. Pramod Paswan, please.
One of the most reliable guys that we have at the MRF, Pramod, a very silent guy. He knows his game, he knows the business, he knows how to hit the efficiency targets, and he's a key driving force in the night shift as well. Safraz. What would we do without Safraz? He's always at the gates, guarding the door. He's the one who has to take all the beatings and the bashings from the truck drivers, because he's the one who keeps everything in order. He started off as a security guard and then into a supervisory role. He does it all. Safraz, very tech oriented, very good with his writing skills, and definite mainstay for us as well. Again, someone who's very well proven that there is deep impact through our field staff. Been able to set up his home back in his hometown, thanks to his long stay.
Jyoti Bai.
People who come to the MRF, especially people from outside India, they like the Indian tea. They always appreciate her chai because she's the one who makes the tea for us and does the sorting and does the housekeeping.
Radha.
So I would call her a COVID warrior. During the COVID period, she was unfortunately affected by COVID. But then again, thanks to ESI, etc., she was taken care of. And she was one of the first few people who actually gave all the confidence to the rest of the team during the COVID period. So a true COVID warrior who's gone through it all.
Pranav. Pranav from Repurpose, please come on stage. Hello. Yeah, we would like to give this award to Naveen, who's also completed 5 years over here. Arun?
Yes, so Naveen has been with us for more than 4 years now, and we've seen him grow in stature and in in terms of his knowledge of waste management. So he did not have any background in waste management. His background was from the production. He was donning the production lines at Toyota Kirloskar. And he's been a huge transformation out here at the MRF. So much so that we never worry about anyone coming to the MRF anymore because he's able to maintain the MRF at such high standards of 5S. Very committed person who will not accept failure no matter what, even during the pandemic time. A huge thank you to Naveen. Thanks Murthy for that. So अभी जो awards मिले हैं सभी को, ये उनके टाइम पीरियड पे जाता है, मतलब उन्होंने कितना साल इधर काम किया है. ऑफ कोर्स हर एक आदमी, हर एक लेडी जो भी इधर काम करते हैं, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आपने हमारे MRF को इधर तक लेके आया, और भी आगे बढ़ना है हमको, और सभी फील्ड स्टाफ के लिए एक जोरदार ताली. हम भूल नहीं पाएंगे हमारे सुपरवाइजरी स्टाफ को. अभी हमारे सुपरवाइजरी स्टाफ भी बहुत आगे आ चुके हैं. हमारे पास सिंधु है एंड अश्विनी भी अभी रिसेंटली ज्वाइन किए हैं. अश्विनी हमारे एडमिन हैं अभी. तो वी आर रियली प्रोग्रेसिंग वेरी क्विकली इन टर्म्स ऑफ आवर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर विद इन द MRF एज वेल. We used to have a different organization structure which is more people dependent. Now it is very process dependent. And this is why we are saying that we are ready for scale. And true testimony over here is the young generation of people who are coming into this kind of a sector where waste is a stigma, but not anymore amongst the recent generation. And a huge round of applause to our supervisory staff as well.
May I invite our team members for a team picture, please? And guests, please stay over. We would love it for you to join us for our refreshments. Please, the guests also can join us for the picture.
Taking the picture.
Shurang, live. जिंदा जिंदा non table